Hello there and welcome to another OIT Quick Tip. I'm Zach Peterson. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, you may have used Zoom and Teams for video conferencing, of course, and meetings, that kind of thing, but both of these are also capable of hosting large-scale webinars. The difference between Zoom and Teams, though, is that Teams actually includes the ability to create webinars for everyone, while Zoom actually requires you to purchase or reserve additional webinar licenses. So today, what I'd like to show you is how to take advantage of the webinar features in Microsoft Teams. Okay, so here I am in Microsoft Teams. I'm on a Mac right now, but it's totally okay if you're using a PC because the process is the same. But I'm going to go ahead up here in the top right-hand corner of the screen here by where this new button is, but I'm not going to click new. I'm going to actually click on the arrow next to it, and it will give us a few other options, including in our organization templates, a webinar. So I'm going to click on that. And now I'm brought to this window so I can actually start setting up my webinar itself. So just like any other event, I'm going to give it a title and set the date and time. Set that to whatever you'd like there. If you click on this globe here, you can also change the time zone if you're presenting in another time zone, so that's available for you. Now, you also have a description just like any other event, and then below that, you have the event group. So the organizer, of course, is you, whoever is creating this particular webinar. You can also add co-organizers, or I like to call them producers a lot of the time, especially for these online webinars. You're probably going to want to have somebody helping you out in the chat and the Q&A. So a co-organizer is always very helpful to help answer questions and field things to keep things rolling during your event. Also, you do have presenters from your org, so anybody here at SMU that might be presenting in this webinar, you can add them here, and then it will allow you to also have them present their screen and things like that. If you have somebody from outside SMU that's going to present, you just click on this and enter their information, and they will get an invitation that way. Now, for the event access, so it can be open to the public, so anybody online can go to your website, which basically all this webinar option does. Once you publish it, it actually creates a web page to allow for registrations. You can actually have that available to the public, so anybody can register for your event, or you can limit it to just folks here at SMU by selecting your organization. And of course, the attendee emails, it sends information about reminders of when the event starts and any other information they might need, including a calendar entry. Now you have the attendee experience. You can set what attendees see. Of course, usually by default, webinars do not allow the attendees to speak on the microphone or show their camera. You can always turn that on and off or do it manually during the event. I always want to manage what the attendees see, which disables the mic and camera. You can always turn them on again during the event. But I always like to have this Q&A option turned on, which makes it a lot easier to queue questions up. So if there are questions throughout the time someone is speaking, you can have them submit those questions using the Q&A feature. And then when you come to a point where you're able to pause, it's a good way to say, okay, we're going to answer these questions now. So very handy. Now, also we go to these meeting options here. And this just gives you a few more options of how you want this meeting or webinar to behave. That includes who's able to share their screen, how the participation works, the meeting chat, Q&A. So like here, who can manage the Q&A, the organizer and the co-organizer, so whoever's helping you there. And then you also can say whether you want an attendance report, so you can get that. And then if you want it recorded, transcribed, things like that. So this is very similar to a regular Teams meeting, but this is just for the entire webinar instead. So now if I go to another option here, let's say presenter bios, it's actually going to have me save before I do any of these other webinar settings. Let me do that. And it can take a little bit longer than a regular meeting to save. There we are. Now, what I can do is go to presenter bios. So if you do have folks that are speaking, multiple people that are speaking during your webinar, you can add some biographies. So whenever someone is registering for this webinar, they can go and look at who is speaking and find out information about them. You also have theming. So this is what will show up when you are sending the link out for people to register for this event. You can change the banner image. You could put an image of Dallas Hall or anything like that, your department's logo. You can have this logo here be your department's logo, whatever it might be. And then you can change the theme color. So you can change it to more of a SMU blue or something like that. And then that is what the website will look like. If I go and view the draft, I will go ahead and show you what that will look like. Let me move this over here. And you'll see this is what the folks that want to register will go to when they click the link that you're sharing with them. And of course, since I'm logged in as the organizer, it just has the button to join. But someone that hasn't registered or is not an organizer, it will have the option to register there. So that is what it would look like. And then now you can configure your registration settings, how many people, what the capacity will be. Will registrations be limited to a certain date, to turn registrations off right before or something like that? Would you like to manually approve everybody that registers? Or if you have a smaller capacity, if you wanted to enable a wait list. So if someone does cancel their registration, if anybody is in the wait list of a full class, it can register those people. Now, by default, it does gather the person's first name, last name, email, and the consent fields. But if you needed to gather some more information from your attendees, like their address or zip code, things like that, or just a custom question, maybe you wanted to gather their SMU ID numbers, whatever that might be, you can add different fields that they will need to fill out before they register for your event. And of course, attendee status, that will show up after you've published this webinar and you are ready to have people register. It will start showing the list of your registrants here. You also have settings for emails and also your post-meeting or webinar reports of who attended, that kind of thing. Your recordings will appear here as well. And then there's also the opportunity to add some third-party apps if that's applicable to you during this particular webinar. But with that, you would then publish the site, and then you would go to Share Event, and it will give you a link. You can provide this in an email or on your website, whatever it may be, and then folks will then be able to register for your webinar. This behaves pretty similar to how a Zoom webinar works, but you don't have to have any kind of extra license to access it in Microsoft Teams. So pretty cool. So with that, if you did have any questions about Teams webinars or webinars in general, feel free to let the IT Help Desk know, and they'll be happy to point you in the right direction. So for this episode of the Quick Tip, I'm Zach Peterson. Thanks again for watching.